Welcome to the May 29th OpenJ9 community call. We'll kick things off as we usually do and open it up for discussion around topics that may be of interest to end users. There's no lightning talk lined up this week, as both Shelley and Lan are at Jade Prime, I think, this week, talking about some of the test-related stuff. And so hopefully, once they're back, we'll be able to get them to give the lightning talks they had been talking about giving. So if there are other lightning talks people would like to give, very open to that. So either reach out to me on Slack or stick something in here and we'll make sure it gets added to the agenda. All right, we'll start by taking a look at the user-raised issues then and see where we're at there. There's been a bunch of discussion going around for an OpenJ9 startup performance issue on Spring Boot. This came in from the Slack channel, and there's a number of people helping look at that and figure out why the difference is being seen between OpenJ9 and Hotspot. Jenkins pipeline file problem. I'm not sure what this is.
It seems to be a question about how to use Jenkins.
Okay, the answer there may be that we should close this. And I'll take a deeper look afterwards. This crash on bytecode that uses Condi, we've got a fix for that, and a PR open for that against 14.3. The possible Java GPU rendering. Not sure what this is.
Cryptic question about being able to use GPU for some AWT stuff, I think.
All right, so some discussion happening there. No device, no capable device detected. So this is about how to build with GPU. Okay. Looks like some questions there and being answered. Failed to connect to local process using JConsole.
We have a fix for that one. It's under review.
All right, and then the other issues here are older and we covered them in the last meeting. So we'll jump back to the agenda. In terms of stats, I went and looked at the Adopt dashboard and pulled down the latest numbers for the various releases. So we are seeing sort of slow and steady increases in our download numbers for both 8 and 11, being split somewhat across the multiple releases we have at this point. And then the Docker pull numbers continue to increase. We'll continue to monitor this and see what we can do to help increase those downloads and continue to work there. If anyone has other ideas on things we should be doing to help drive awareness or the reach of OpenJ9, very open to that.
I don't have any suggestions on that front, but I wondered if we should add the official images that Dino just created for .openjdk, if we can somehow track the OpenJ9 tags there in the same way.
Yeah, it's probably a question we need to start with at the Adopt community to see how they're tracking their dashboard stats and get that updated there.
Yeah.
All right, so the 14.2 release, I believe we've shipped that now for Java 8. with the iced tea packages. For Java 11, we had not yet shipped the package, so there was a proposal to backport a couple of fixes into the 14.3 or into a new release and ship that instead of 14.2. So we're putting out a package anyways. We found a couple of fixes that are important to end users. Let's get those into that release. It just means bumping that release number for Java 11. And the fixes we want to ship are 11 specific. So things like that constant dynamic change fix to make OpenJ9 be able to run IntelliJ to deal with an out-of-memory error on startup. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm just hoping that as we discuss that here, that no one has any objections or strong concerns with that approach. Okay. For lack of objection, I'm going to take that as agreement that we will ship the 14.3. Peter has thankfully started the paperwork for that to get all the needful things done to get us out the door. It's just a matter of getting the last of the changes merged into the right branches, and then we'll give the okay to put the builds up, or to do the builds and put them up at it all.
So two things. One is the Condi fix. The issue isn't closed yet. So I don't know if we're waiting for confirmation from the user that it fixed the problem.
We've had that confirmation, so I will close that item now, yes. I will take care of that after this meeting.
And the other one is the JConsole fix you just asked about that was user raised. Might get fixed today or tomorrow. I'm not sure if there's any timeline for getting this release out, but maybe we want to wait for that one if it's going to be released very shortly. It's again a Java 11 only and later only fix.
How risky do you see that fix for that change?
Well, it takes something that doesn't work and makes it work. So I don't think it's going to make anything worse than it already is.
Right, but it's unlikely to affect other code or things not running JConsole.
Correct. It's a attach API related change.
Okay. Provided we have a fix quickly, it seems reasonable. I don't really want to see the 14.3 build stretch out too long.
No, so I think the fix is very close to being ready. So hopefully get merged today.
All right. And the usual reminders for the 0.15 release. Our reality check date is coming up on June 18th, so please pay some attention to what's in that milestone plan to make sure things are going to close out on time. Those dates seem far away, but especially as we hit the summer, they have a way of sneaking up on us. For the JDK next repo, I believe we have we've been able to do some sanity testing on that repo and been able to merge things into the OpenJ9 branch. So we should be in a reasonable state there and continuing to track the changes that are going in to OpenJDK. Are there any concerns or issues with the JDK next repo at this point? All right, that's good to hear. And I guess we'll move on to the regular adopt update. Do we have someone on the call who's able to give us an update from that?
I can try. So as you said, we've recently done the JDK 212, HU 212 BO4 OpenJ9 0.14.2 release, which had the bundled ICT web in it. And you've also covered the fact that we're not going to put that OpenJ9 release into JDK 11 so that we can pick up the other fixes. That's the main thing I've been doing. I know that hotspot builds that adopt are behind OpenJ9 because their mapping of the Mercurial repositories out of OpenJDK have a few issues that need sorting. So if someone wants the ICT Web JDK package at the moment, their only choice is the OpenJ9 builds if anyone's looking at the hotspots that you encounter. Other than that, again, with my main focus on doing the releasing, the main bottleneck on doing the releases was the lack of Mac machines in particular. So I've raised an issue with them today to try and chase up getting some additional Mac resources. One of the test runs was waiting 24 hours for a machine, which doesn't really meet our get a release out within 24 hours objective. Other than that, I've started looking at some of the nightly test runs just from JDK 8, 11, and 12. And I'm noticing failures in there and trying to get my head around how we can best manage those failures, given that either yourselves in OpenJ9 or OpenJDK might already know about them because we're building head releases. We don't want to be spending unnecessary time triaging things that others are also triaging, but I'm starting to worry and wonder how we can best manage.
Is there discussions going on at Adopt around how to handle that, or is that something that's just coming up new?
While I was doing, it's kind of newish. I noticed when I was doing the releases that the 90 builds had failures in them that really no one was looking at. So in the 8 head, I was surprised to find that there's been a couple of presumably regressions cropped up. It tends to be the OpenJDK test suite that finds these because Adopt's the only place that's regularly running those. So perhaps addressing that might be the best way of looking at it, trying to get those tests being run either at Eclipse or on local testing, but don't really know.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that. Was it the OpenJDK regression you're seeing?
Yes.
We are running that internally.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can send you a link.
Yeah, it would be good to have a cross-check as to...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may also be something we want to run more regularly at OpenJ9, or find a way to triage more regularly just to make sure we're not introducing regressions there.
Yeah, as I say, that since what Adopt are taking are essentially, 2 components, one from OpenJDK, one from OpenJ9, and then rebuilding them, then if something does go awry, being able to cross-check with the equivalent test being run in those 2 locations is a big help. You don't want to be spending a lot of time trying to debug something only to find that it is already known.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure we have resources to run those suites.
Right.
Regular OpenJ9 builds, but we should be finding a way to monitor them.
We can probably do a Saturday build. I know we've talked about that before, but we haven't turned it on yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure building it again is going to be helpful if Adopt is already building and testing it. It's a matter of getting it triaged and prioritized. Simon, how many people are currently involved in triaging those builds at Adopt?
Somewhere between 0 and half, as far as I can tell.
Okay. All right.
But I think people have been given a false sense of security by the fact that the builds themselves do not fail if there's one or two test failures down in the test jobs. So there tends to be a lot of scanning of the top level builds and they all look green. It's only when you drill right down into them you see that in fact out of the many thousands of OpenJDK tests there were a handful of failures.
Okay. All right, so that's probably a broader discussion with Shelley and company needed to figure out, who we have, who's already triaging some of this, and how we can make that more effective.
Mm-hmm.
Regressions in particular concern me. So. And I guess the one other thing we should call out is that the adopt Docker images are now official packages. So
oh yes, well remembered.
So anybody who's doing talks or pointing people at where to get OpenJ9 Docker images should probably update their slides or references to point to the official packages now. So moving on to our next item there,
Sorry, Dan, there's one other thing for adopt. There has also been a discussion recently about the GPU support for OpenJ9 builds. So I believe at the next TSC, they'll be discussing whether or not they're really willing to install the CUDA libraries on their build and test machines so that they can build the support into the OpenJ9 binaries that they produce, which would enable end users to be able to install the CUDA libraries themselves and then be able to use that with the OpenJ9 they get from Adopt OpenJDK. Right now, they have to rebuild it themselves if they want to do that.
That TSC meeting is this Friday?
That I'm not sure of the date on. Okay. But it got added to the agenda for the next one, whenever that is.
All right. In terms of the contributor teams bug, I've seen some commits. I've seen the examples of what it should look like on the web UI, but it hasn't been enabled yet. So I'll continue to track that to be able to add contributors to our teams. GitHub may have made that easier with their recent announcements on some of their new feature rollouts, which includes the idea of triage members, people who are allowed to modify issues but don't have write access to the repo. So that may make this even easier than what they've been doing so far. All right. Adam, do you want to take us through the machines update?
Sure. Not too much of an update today. We recently added the Windows spec to our side so that if people want to request and pull requests or run it in other builds, they can do that now. But we do not run it regularly. There's 3 or 4 Linux machines offline at UNB. That we've marked offline because they're having issues with networking and Git. We haven't had a chance to investigate that. But that does reduce our capacity there. PPC, there was an issue with one of the machines. I think it's fixed now. So that's added back in the builds as of yesterday afternoon.
Adam, for the Linux machines,
yep.
With the decrease in capacity, are we seeing builds slowing down, or is it not hitting the nightly builds or pull request testing yet?
I don't know if Pete has a comment on that. I can have a quick look here.
Pete wasn't listening. What was...
Are the X builds slower because we're down 4 machines?
The X builds are slower because all our X machines are slow. I haven't noticed a problem being down for machines.
So in the nightly, I'm seeing up to 9 hours to complete everything. I'm not sure how that compares to before we lost those 4 machines.
All right.
Yeah, it's not really an update for the OSX machines. There's other tasks that are taking priority for getting those out. I know they're looking for a shelf to mount them onto. That's about it. Any questions?
Thanks, Adam. Sue, is there any update on the website design review?
I booked a meeting provisionally for the 2nd of July, and I just found out it's a bank holiday in Canada, so I need to move it. So that will be a WebEx meeting, and I've initially invited a limited number of people, but if there's anyone that wants to be added to the call, then please let me know. Yeah, so I was booked for the 2nd at the moment, which is a Tuesday. I was going to move it to either Wednesday or Thursday. I hadn't checked to see what that looks like for people.
Okay. Yeah, I find an available slot and we'll do our best to make it work.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sue. Are there any other business that people want to discuss this week? All right, then thank you, everybody, and we'll connect again next week.
Thanks.